Welcome to episode 272 of the All the Books Show, the official podcast of the David A. Howe Public Library. We're talking book news, author news, and literary news. All right, I'm Eric Mickles.
I'm Nick Gunning.
I start first.
How are you doing today, my friend?
Fine.
You enjoying that Chick-fil-A?
Don't say that. Don't tell people that's what I'm eating.
Oh, sorry. Are you enjoying that? Are you enjoying that seasoned chicken from a fast food restaurant?
Thank you for this.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Oh my gosh. Well, today we're going to be talking a little bit about Mr. Steven Spielberg. This was, as I mentioned last week, this was one that we've tossed around many times, usually Eric doing the tossing. And this would be about the time when West Side Story would be out.
Yeah.
So,
oh my word.
In lieu of that, we're going to talk some of our favorite Steven Spielberg movies later on. Yeah. You know, today I realized this podcast is now on its third president. That's pretty impressive, right? Looking at the longevity. Wow. We started this during the Obama years. So crazy.
Uh-huh.
Crazy. Yeah. Here we are.
I thought you were going to describe the years that followed, but good call. We started during the Obama years. Yeah, you can tell where we were in time by boy, reading is fun. Go to your library to a couple episodes ago. I don't even know. Why do you know the book anymore?
The first 6 months, we're all talking about Joyce Carol Oates.
That's true.
That was the early days.
How you knew. That's how you knew we were in the Obama years.
That's how you can tell. President Obama gave her the Presidential Medal of Freedom. He gave Joyce Carol Oates an award. I don't even remember what
it was. She disturbs me, and I find her writing to be provocative yet disturbing.
That is actually a very good summation of a Joyce Carol Oates novel. Yes, President Obama awarded the National Humanities Medal to Joyce Carol Oates in 2011.
Oh.
All right, let's crack open the book, see where those bookmarks are at.
Did I say I finished The Rise and Fall of the Dinosaurs?
Well, I don't know.
Steven Spielberg.
I can't remember. But
I know I'm not allowed to talk about it.
No, next week is Dino-November. You know this.
Well, I read it anyway.
Okay.
And I liked it. And did I say on the podcast how sometimes when I'm reading a book about dinosaurs, whenever they get to the part where the dinosaurs die,
right,
I always kind of get sad.
Yeah. And
maybe hope at the end they don't die.
That something happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like every time I watch King Kong, I'm like, maybe he'll make it. Nope.
Not
nope.
That
him
time.
And the dinosaurs.
All right. Well, we'll talk more about that then next week.
All right. I started reading Scar Tissue by Anthony Kiedis.
Oh, okay. From the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Lead singer, the frontman of the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I'm probably going to regret it in the long run.
Yeah.
Because he's lived a gross and weird life that I don't think anyone should replicate and or venerate.
Probably not.
But it's also kind of all right, but tell me about the song Other Side. So I'm reading through all the crap about him and his living with his dad and all his sexual escapades so I can get to the part where it's so Californication, it was like this. That's not what he sounds like at all. I also started reading Blood, Sweat, and Pixels.
Oh, there's a real twist at the end there.
Yeah, hold on, I'm getting the full title here. It's Blood, Sweat, and Pixels, the triumphant, turbulent stories behind how video games are made by Jason Schreier. At the time he wrote this, I'm pretty sure he was a Kotaku writer, but I could be wrong. He's no longer with Kotaku. He's now Bloomberg, writing on the games industry and everything. But basically, it's each chapter focuses on a game. So the first one was Pillars of Eternity. Second chapter, he was talking about the making of Uncharted 4 because they had a lot of shakeups during that. Stardew Valley. So just, the work it goes into making these games and stuff. Crunch or solo developers or kickstarting. So I've been enjoying it.
It's funny to me that you're reading this because I feel like this to you is like me reading a Beatle book because it's what do you have left to learn?
Yeah.
What can you really be taught? It's like when I see those, in the grocery store, it'll be the essential guide to the Beatles, the essential guide to Superman. I'm like, okay, I could write that. All right.
It's kind of how I felt about the rise and fall of dinosaurs at the start.
Yeah,
then
exactly,
as I went on, I'm like, wait, there was this mini raptor that had a double claw.
Save it for next week.
Yes. No, I know what you mean, but I didn't know much about the turbulent making of Uncharted 4. About how the original creator was kind of ousted and they got the people from The Last of Us to come in and do it. And it changed direction completely mid-game.
4 is so good. It's so good. I love that game.
Yeah, interesting. He has a new book coming out. I think it's next year. Anytime I see a date that says 2021 or 2022, my eyes glaze over and I forget where I am. So I just can't even comprehend that far in the future these days.
Yeah. Best not to try.
Yeah. So anyways, those are the two like nonfiction books I'm reading right now.
Okay.
Scar Tissue is like a book I'm reading at home. Blood, Sweat, and Pixels, a book I'm reading at work.
Got it.
I don't feel comfortable reading Scar Tissues at work.
Yep.
I finished Invincible Volume 10.
Hey, like Robert Kirkman's Invincible?
Kirkman.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Cool.
I was a little lost at the beginning.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it over on Comic Book Coffee Break.
It's very serialized.
I did not remember at all where I left it.
I also had a similar experience because I picked up Super Dinosaur Volume 2 and I read Super Dinosaur, which is also by Robert Kirkman. I read Super Dinosaur 1 in like 2013 and I was like, the what is happening here? I don't know. So I did eventually get there. But again, next week. So sorry, you said Persepolis?
I read Persepolis 2, Volume 2. I think for the most part now when you get them in one volume.
Yeah, I think so.
But I read the first volume separately and then the second one just recently. It's by Marjane Satrapi. The second volume, I think, is a little less compelling, even though her life is worse in the second one. But it kind of just feels like when you're a kid, things are just more focused with that kind of... And then when she's an adult, she's traveling, she's all over the place, she's making all these crazy decisions. She goes back home, and there's all this. But the first book was kind of like a tour of what life was like for her.
It's such a jarring transition in that story.
Yeah. Persepolis 2 becomes much more personal. So, I mean, there's pros and cons to doing either way. But I think if you wanted to know, like, what is it like growing up in Iran, you read Persepolis 1.
Yeah.
First half. I read Superman Smashes the Klan by
so good.
Louis Nye.
Yes, what did you think?
I was reading that November 3rd, 2016.
Sure.
So that's where I was that day. I mean, it's good. It's just a good story.
It is. It looks great. The story is so good.
So I think the history of it's important. I think the message is important. It's all good.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Just as a reminder, the history of it is that it's an adaptation of a radio show from the 40s that's brought to today.
The thing that it does wisely is at one point you realize that the bad guys are... You think he's dealing with the Klan during the thing, and then you find out the Klan are working with this supervillain. Yeah. But what happens is... Spoilers! The leader of the Klan takes over and becomes like... and it's just kind of like... It could go one way where it's like, oh, okay, it's just the bad guy's a super mad scientist. He's not racist or anything. But then the racist guy takes that over, gets his stuff, and you're like, oh, wait, racism is the problem after all.
Yep.
So I thought that was a smart twist. So, and I liked Superman. I thought he was fun in it.
I did too. I thought it was really well done.
Yeah.
Well, cool. I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah.
I worked on the election day, as I always do. I've been an election inspector for many years, and I always bring a stack. I always bring a stack of graphic novels and books and things, and I usually really get through them. This time, I did not have a chance. It's good. I really... No,
yes, busy.
I was glad that we were as busy as we were, but it was really like...
It's 1908, I saw.
Yeah, but I mean, it wasn't a situation where I had big, long lulls, so the only thing that I read, like, in completion was Primer by Jennifer Monroe, and this is another of the junior-level DC graphics, and it's an original character. It's a girl who... her father is a villain, and she is in foster care. And her foster mom is a scientist for the government, and so she gets into this stuff, and I don't want to spoil it, but that's how sort of the character of Primer comes about. I thought it's really well done. I mean, it is technically a DC comic. There's nothing that really... I think there's some references, but for the most part, it just kind of stands alone as its own original thing. But I thought it was really good. I would recommend it. So I liked that. And that was my one. I'm going to sit down and read this whole thing at the election. But
okay.
The other thing that I finished...
1908, by the way, was William Jennings Byron versus William Howard Taft.
Wow. And that really rocked the vote, apparently. Got the people out. Okay.
Yeah.
I read The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett.
So, you think they said rock the vote back then?
No, I don't.
Okay.
No, I don't think at all. Anyway, I read The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. This is one that I am not too proud to say that I feel that I missed the point, because it is overwhelming acclaim, and it just didn't connect with me, and that's fine. It was one where each chapter, or each, every couple of chapters, we jump about 10 years. The threads connecting them to me was very loose. As far as character development, I thought it was very minimal, and it relied really heavily on coincidences. So, like, oh, wow, I just happened to run into this one person in New York City. So, for me, I was a little disappointed. But again, I mean, the overwhelming positive response to it is clearly that there's something there. So, I'm going to chalk that up to not being the target audience for it, and that's fine. I'm currently reading A Time for Mercy by John Grisham. This is the third book in the Jake Brigance series. The first one was Grisham's very first novel, A Time to Kill, which is
had a
very
pretty good year.
Yeah,
Mr. Grisham.
Yeah,
he's been just racking it and raking it and raking it in.
Raking it in, yeah. I mean, you rack
he's
like
been raking a
pool
it
table,
with money.
Yeah.
Well, that's true too.
It makes sense.
You're racking up the pool
you could
balls.
Sell it.
You're raking in the money leaves.
Yes. So this was A Time to Kill was his very first novel. There was a movie with Matthew McConaughey as Jake Brigance. The first book, The Crime, is
McConaughey, not Damon.
McConaughey.
I'm thinking The Rainmaker.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Crime in A Time to Kill is brutal, and it kept me from reading it for a long time because it is so hard to read. But it's a really well-written book. He returned to that character with Sycamore Row, like decades later, and it was shocking to me how well he nailed the tone.
Down on Sycamore Road. Oh wait, no, I didn't do it right. I was trying to do Skid Row.
Oh, I don't know it. Sorry.
You don't know Skid Row from Little Shop of Horrors?
No, not really. I know Suddenly Seymour.
Okay.
Does that help? Okay.
No, it's fine.
Well, no, the point is Sycamore Row, which was decades later, this is book 2, was really impressive to me that he was able to match the tone of his writing from decades earlier, because it is very different. And this is book 3, Time for Mercy. And I'm only really, I've gotten through The Crime, I've gotten to, what the plot will be. I haven't really settled into it yet. But I was riveted by the beginning, I'll say that. After having weird experiences with The Reckoning, which was real dull. And no, The Reckoning was okay. The Guardians was soup's dull. The Reckoning was pretty decent, but an odd read. So far, I'm liking A Time for Mercy, and that's it for me. I've been watching some stuff. I finally we just binged the rest of The Mandalorian.
Braggart alert.
When The Mandalorian, well, actually, when we first got Disney Plus, back when Hamilton dropped, we watched, I want to say, the first 2 or 3 episodes of The Mandalorian.
You having Disney Plus is news to me.
Oh, really?
Right now.
Oh.
This is the first I'm hearing of this.
Well, we have Disney Plus.
Oh.
But
okay.
we watched the first 2 or 3 episodes of The Mandalorian, and we're just kind of like, whatever, but we weren't really super compelled by it. And then I don't even know what it was, but we were like, you know what? We're gonna watch The Mandalorian. So we
was it quarantine?
Yeah, I guess so. So we picked it up. I want to say with episode 4, the one where they're defending this little town, and that one was just so good. And so we just over the next couple of days,
Samurai episode,
watched the whole thing. Right, exactly. And then now we're caught up with the first 2 episodes of season 2, and
we haven't started season 2.
I'm really glad that we went back to it because we ended up really loving it. So that's fun.
Yeah, we haven't started season 2. I forget, we were watching something. Well, one, it came out during October, so I'm like, we can't do this. And then she's like, when do you want to watch it? I was like, let's see how November turns out. There was a lot of things I wasn't planning on.
Well, we caught up to that, and we're still in the Star Wars mood, so I was like, well, I mean, geez, let's go back and finish Rebels. So that's what we're doing now.
Yeah, it's there, right?
We're finishing up Rebels. So
you hadn't finished Rebels?
No,
I thought you were donezo.
No, we kind of got stalled in season 3, and then season 4 is an abridged season, so we're probably 20 episodes. We probably got 20 episodes left. So, well, kind of nice to get back into that. And actually, the episodes we were on were really Mandalorian heavy, so it was kind of, it was kind of a good transition. We're still watching Runaways, which the first season, it's like all the kids are in their different thing, they're different environments, and sometimes they're together. Season 2, they're all together all the time, and it's really killed the momentum. It's like, I don't really even know. There doesn't seem to be a villain, and there doesn't really seem to be, a goal. So it's...
Man, the villain is adulthood.
Yeah, you're right.
And, the man putting responsibility onto these kids who aren't ready for that yet, man.
Thanks for
What's
dropping
wrong?
that.
Yeah.
Thanks for
Yeah,
dropping
no
that
problem.
on me.
Yeah, I say let the kids lead.
I've not read the comic
Away.
book. My wife has, and her criticism of it is that in the series, the parents are just straight up villains. They're just bad people, and that is not the case at all in the show. And so it really is like, well, why? You know, it just feels like a very forced conflict when the parents aren't actually evil. So I don't really understand that move. I don't. I mean, maybe just because otherwise it would be like parents trying to kill their children, and that's a much darker show. I don't know, but it's definitely missing it. And we're still watching The Undoing on HBO with Nicole Kidman and Hugh Grant, based on a novel. Pretty interesting so far.
Dude, did I watch anything else? I've been listening. I was looking at my musical playlist because I was in a real bad spot. So I was like, I got to listen to some musicals to get back up.
Sure.
And I was like, oh, I haven't updated this. What are new musicals? And then I got sad again because like all these 2019 musicals had come out and now you just can't do them. But I was getting into the Hades Town soundtrack.
Not familiar with it.
And also the Jagged Little Pill.
Like Alanis Morissette? No, that's not. Is that Alanis Morissette?
Yeah, it's a musical based on Alanis Morissette.
Okay.
On the album, and I think some more of her work as well. But it's fun. I don't know what any of these look like. I've just been listening to the music. But if you ever wanted to hear like a Broadway production of You Learn that then becomes Thank You, it exists.
You can do it. Wow.
It's the show. It's the ending of that show. So Hades Town is like this kind of post-apocalyptic Western retelling of the myth of Orpheus having to go get his wife back from Hades.
Yeah. Well,
it's cool music. Yeah.
I know that Alanis Morissette played God in the film Dogma. Is that helpful in any way?
Yeah, that's a little helpful, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, that's it for you. You're not in the midst of any shows or anything like that?
Just Cougar Town.
Okay.
I don't know what I'm going to do after Cougar Town.
That's going to be tough.
It was so funny. My sister was like, all you do is watch serious shows. I'm like, I can't remember the last serious show I watched.
Yeah.
I guess it was Mindhunter. But I don't.
That's funny because, I was going to say, you famously don't like hour-long dramas.
Yeah, give me a 20-minute sitcom. It's got to be a good one. I don't know what sitcom to go to next.
You know what? My wife and I have been rewatching Head of the Class. Do you remember Head of the Class? You're probably too young. I feel like I'm too young for Head of the Class. Is this familiar to you at all? Okay. No. It was a show that I really liked when I was super little, and I only have these like vague memories of it. And randomly, it's on the Roku channel, so I was like, "Let's do it."
Yeah, I was born then.
Yeah, Head of the Class.
When quarantine started, I went looking. I was like, "Where can I watch Three's Company?" The answer is nowhere.
Really?
Because no one, for an old show like that, no one's willing to pay streaming rights.
Huh.
And the DVDs, you can get those, but they're like $500.
Are they really?
They put them out once and never again.
Wow, I've got a couple.
Do you?
Yeah.
My brother.
I've got maybe the first 3 seasons or something like that.
Bruh, you could retire.
Do you know that that's based on a British show called Man About the House?
Sure do.
I figured you did. Who's your favorite roommate?
You mean out of the 3 that leave?
Yeah. Well, yeah, you can count Janet.
I mean, I guess it's Christmas.
Yeah, Chrissy Snow
as first
classic.
And I do like Patricia.
Oh, Priscilla
Barnes,
whatever her name
is. Priscilla Barnes, the third one. I thought she was good.
Terry is her name.
Yeah. The second one was just, I don't know.
That was like she was only there for like 1 season. It kind of overlapped too.
Chrissy's cousin, like
her
country cousin.
I liked them all. Honestly, I feel like I'm pretty shocked that when the show is based on like the relationship between 3 characters, to change one of those midway through and stick the landing, it's pretty impressive.
I mean, when I was looking for it, I was like, is this the show still funny? And then I thought about John Ritter, like, falling backwards over a couch. I was like, you know what? I bet it's still funny.
Every single episode of Three's Company, one person is on the other side of a door, and they overhear something that sounds super sexual, and they misinterpret it, and the whole episode is shenanigans, and it ends up with them all hugging and kissing each other on the lips. What's not funny about that?
Oh my gosh! Because sometimes somebody will bust in, and they'll just pose the door open, and John Ritter will be just like, "Whoa!" and then he'll like roll backwards on the couch, and then he'll get up, and he's like, "Oh, thank God that's over!" And then the next door will open on the other side, and like, "Whoa!"
Falls right over.
Classic.
I've got one more serious question for you. Yeah. Are you the Ropers or Mr. Furley kind of man?
I was the Ropers.
Yeah,
but I don't know. Furley's fine too.
Yes.
They're all good. There's not like an era of that show I dislike.
Can I suggest to you, and I know we just passed Halloween, but next year you maybe consider a Mr. Furley Halloween costume?
All right.
Will you?
That's enough of that.
I'll send you an ascot. Let me mail you an ascot. It would be my honor.
You're acting like an
Eric,
ascot right now.
You stop that. This is
Why don't you take your ascot off? Oh, wait, that's your face.
Family show.
It's just a piece of clothing.
All right, let's get into some book news. Tell me what's on the New York Times bestseller list.
Look into the future to see what it proves. It's time for book news.
Gosh, number 10 on the New York Times bestsellers list for combined print and ebook fiction is The Evening and the Morning by Ken Follett, the prequel to the Pillars of the Earth
Finally.
series. Boat Builder.
People have been demanding a prequel to Pillars of the Earth.
Norman noblewoman and monk live in England under attack by the Welsh and the Vikings.
Like Tony Shalhoub?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Monk would hate that era. That era is so dirty.
I know. You think about how like Fargo Pillars of the Earth is supposed to be. It's like in this one, you just expect him to be like, look, I've invented the boat.
Tony Shalhoub really did all right. You know what I mean? Tony Shalhoub did all right for himself. He had Wings. You know, he had Monk.
Yeah, Galaxy Quest.
Men in Black. I mean,
yeah,
he's probably doing all right, even now.
I think he's happy. Yeah,
I think he is too.
Mad About You?
No, that was Paul Reiser. Different guy, different energy, similar hair is probably where you're getting confused. I think that's
number 9. The Invisible Life of Adi LaRue. A Faustian bargain comes with a curse that affects the adventure Adi LaRue has across centuries.
Don't make a Faustian bargain. That's insane. Yeah. Why would you say yes to that?
I have a bargain for you. Is it in any way Faustian? A little.
I'm willing to roll the dice, good sir.
It's very much Faustian.
Yeah. Oh.
And a bit Freudian.
The friend's name was Larry, right?
Yeah.
That was Larry, and they'd go down to the Regal Beagle and have a drink. Yeah.
Yeah, Larry.
It's a good show.
Number 8, Truly, Madly, Deeply by Karen Kingsbury. So I guess she's turning the Savage Garden song into a book. She's novelized it.
Apparently, I was thinking more Truly, Madly, Guilty, right? Isn't that the Leanne Moriarty book?
Oh, maybe.
Wow.
Yeah. Truly, Madly, Deeply is the I wanna bathe with you in the ocean. Oh, wait, no. I wanna bathe with you in the sea. I wanna live like this forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a novel about that song, yeah.
An 18-year-old who wants to become a police officer falls in love with a young woman who has an aggressive form of cancer. I completely misunderstood that song.
Yeah, apparently.
So Savage Garden steered me in a different direction, I guess.
I fully thought that you were going to say that he wants to be a police officer and she comes from like a crime family or something. I thought it was a Romeo-Juliet kind of situation, but it's more of like a Romeo and whatever the girl from Fault in Our Stars' name was situation.
Yeah, the girl from The Fault in Our Stars situation.
Yeah, you know.
Number 7, The Searcher by Tana French. After a divorce, a former Chicago police officer resettles in an Irish village where a boy goes missing. David Tennant and Jodie Whittaker?
Yeah.
Is that it? Who was in
Broadchurch?
Broadchurch.
Yeah, they were.
Was it?
And they both played the Doctor in Doctor Who.
Is it Jodie Whittaker?
Yeah, I think that's her name.
No, it's the person from the Friendship movie. The Favorite.
Oh, yeah. Jodie Whittaker is also in it, but no, you're talking about that's going to drive me crazy.
Yes. That's my gift.
Eric, no. What a Faustian bargain you've taken us through. I'm going to tell you what it is.
It's Faustian.
Olivia Colman. David Tennant and Olivia Colman play the cops. Jodie Whittaker is the mother of the child who was killed.
Oh, I did not know Jodie Whittaker was in that show.
She was. Broadchurch.
All right, well, there you go. Anyway, number 6, The Wonder Boy of Whistle Stop. Wonder Boy, what's the secret of your power?
This is a real musical episode. I like it.
Wonder Boy by Tenacious D?
Oh, no, I don't know that. Nope.
How about the power to kill a yak?
How about
500 yards away?
How about the power of love?
9 bullets!
By Huey Lewis in the News. I know that one.
All right. Fanny Flagg. Bud Threadgood returns to his hometown and sets off on some life-changing events. First stop, changing his name from Threadgood.
That would be a good choice. Fanny Flagg wrote Fried Green Tomatoes. Fun fact.
Yeah.
It has a longer name, the book. I can't remember.
Number 5 is new this week. It's called Shake Up. It's a Stuart Woods book. It's the 55th book in the Stone Barrington series. A criminal mastermind turns out to be a person of influence.
Yes. Subplot: at least 4 20-something women are desperate to have sex with a 60-plus retired lawyer.
Do you think that he gets older by a year for every book?
He sure seems old to me, Eric.
55. At that point, you've said everything you can about this character.
You have, yeah. You need to move on. Yeah.
Number 4, 3 women disappear. Ah! James Patterson and Shan Seraphin. Detective Sean Walsh must solve a case involving 3 missing women who have access to a home where a man was murdered. I bet the 3 women murdered the man.
What is the title of the book again?
3 women disappear.
That's very descriptive. I feel like James Patterson has reached a new level of laziness where someone just walks in a room and is like, I got a book. And he's like, what's it about? And he's like, 3 women disappear. He's already written 3 chapters and has assigned it to his writing farm. Yeah. And they just go with that. 3 women disappear. What do you want?
Yeah.
I told you what happened. That's what happened. You want the book, buy the book. You don't.
Yeah.
I got $1 billion, baby.
Here's the sequel. Body found on floor. Number 3, The Return by Nicholas Sparks. A doctor serving in the Navy in Afghanistan goes back to North Carolina where 2 women
after losing his wife.
I don't know if that's true.
He lost his wife. Come on.
You think so?
It's a Nicholas Sparks book.
So yes. He's a widow doctor.
Yeah.
He's a widower doctor.
Yeah.
Serving in the Navy in Afghanistan. He's coming back to North Carolina.
Silver Fox.
And these 2 women are be like, wow, he's old, but he seems very with it.
I think one is going to be the new wife, and I think one, it's more of a mentor relationship.
Oh,
so I think he feels useful to the younger one and sort of serves as a surrogate father. To the older one, they Diane Lane and Richard Gere. They Marvin Gaye and get it on. Let's say that.
Number 2, A Time for Mercy by John Grisham.
I'm reading that.
Yeah. A 16-year-old is accused of killing a deputy in Clinton, Mississippi in 1990.
He definitely did it, let me tell you.
Number 1.
He did it.
Number 1.
Guilty.
The Sentinels. No, just the Sentinel. Just a singular Sentinel.
Surrender, mutants.
By Lee Child and Andrew Child.
What? Lee Child?
Reacher
has a new
Child.
Writing partner, Andrew Child? Is this his son or husband? Because we've been down this road with Janet Ivanovich, and I just want to know.
It was the son with Janet Ivanovich.
I know it was, but they were writing those sexy Fox and O'Hare novels together.
Yeah, they were.
Oh, look at this. According to thebookseller.com, Lee Child is to pass the Jack Reacher baton to his younger brother.
Yeah. So this is kind of like a Lion King situation.
Yes, actually, his younger brother is Andrew Grant, who is a pretty popular novelist in his own right, and it kind of looks like he's going to be taking over the... Do
you think there's going to be a situation where Jack Reacher is going to be like in a cavern with Wildebeest, and he's going to look up, and there's Andrew Child holding on to Lee Child?
Maybe.
He just says, "God,
I think
long
so.
live the king."
I
and
think
you see
so.
Lee Child like,
Yeah.
Jack Reacher intervenes on an ambush in Tennessee and uncovers a conspiracy.
Listen,
probably to take out Lee Child.
Let me tell you a cold hard truth of the Jack Reacher series. Any book in the Jack Reacher series, the synopsis could be Jack Reacher intervenes. Period. End of sentence. Jack Reacher intervenes.
Oh, okay. I guess you don't like Spider-Man comics then.
I like Spider-Man comics.
Well, Spider-Man intervenes, Nick.
I guess.
That's what it means to be a hero.
I feel like I need to remind you because it's been a long time since that Jack Reacher spotlight we did. Do you remember that Jack Reacher spotlight we did?
Yes, I read about his teen years.
Yes,
it was the worst.
You sure did. Jack Reacher only has the underwear that he's wearing and a toothbrush. That's all he carries around.
Gross. He's the grossest man alive.
That's all he carries around.
Come on toothpaste. Now. That means some days he's spitting on his toothbrush and saying, that'll work.
Didn't we do? Oh, you know what? I'm trying to find the name of it, but it's because it's called.
I saw the crappy sequel with you.
Episode. That's right. We saw Never Go Back, right?
Never Go Back, and I won't.
I know, but after that we saw The Mummy, so we kind of did go back when you think about it.
Yeah, well.
Well, we were joined by my younger brother Steve to talk about Jack Reacher's Lee Child back in episode 116. So if you want to listen to Eric's mind melt talking about Jack Reacher, you know what? Looking at it now, that's a pretty popular episode, actually. So, that was back. Oh, Wow. November 5th, 2017. That was almost exactly 3 years ago. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Okay. We don't have to talk about it.
I mean, it's crazy. It's how many years ago you said it was?
I know.
Listen, there is no past. There is no future. There's only today at all times.
Oh, that was hard to hear. That was hard to hear. All right, Eric, are you ready for Spotlight time?
Spotlight. Welcome to the Spotlight. We hope that you stay. It's the Spotlight here in Hollywood. We always knew you would. We knew you could. It's the Spotlight.
Eric, if I'm being perfectly honest with you, I have no notes. I have no notes. That was great. That was so good. Wow. That really you know what it is? You captured old Hollywood. That's the thing. You captured that feel. You know what I mean? I want to go have an unfiltered cigarette leaning against a flickering street lamp. That's what I want right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Eric, Steven Spielberg is one that you brought up many a times. So why don't you take us in by just telling me a little bit about the pull that Steven Spielberg has in your life? What do you like about the man?
What do I like about the man?
Yeah, Steven Spielberg. Most popular director of all time.
Most popular, most like financially successful.
Right.
Right? It's crazy.
Yeah.
The amount of like #1 hits he's had. I mean, his movies are just so good. I don't know. It's gonna be all like hyperbole today.
Fine.
If that's the question.
Yeah.
I mean, like as a kid, I liked E.T. and E.T. was like a big movie for me as a kid. Like it was kind of scary. It had heart. It was adventure-y and everything. And then, I mean, my love for Jurassic Park is well documented. So, like, those two movies are really the things that set me on, like, oh, I think I like Spielberg. I don't know when it was that I was like, oh, I think he might be like my favorite director. But it happened.
What are some of the hallmarks that appeal to you?
Well, people can do action, but it's hard to find people who can do like adventure the same way that he does. You get people who try to imitate it, and some can do it and some can't. But the adventure is just, I mean, he's like raised in pulp, so you get a lot of the pulpy adventure in there. In the second Hobbit movie, there's a scene where in the book as well, where they all escape in the barrels. But Peter Jackson, had that whole chase with the elves chasing them in the barrels, and the orcs show up, and it just keeps going over the top. Yeah. And I feel like you get away with that now because Spielberg has made his adventure films. In the past.
I see that.
And I feel like my taste of the kids in a station wagon, driving down a windy hill road while they're being chased by something, and one of them's hanging out the car and ah! And maybe there's a skateboard involved. It all kind of just feels like it stems from a Spielberg mentality.
This is why I don't understand your distaste for the Goonies. It really seems like it. It really seems like you'd like it.
I don't know. I just maybe I should give it a shot now that I'm an adult. I like Monster Squad a little bit more.
Yeah. Did
I say Monster Squad? Yeah. Monster Squad.
What's the earliest? I mean, it sounds like it's E.T., right? What's the earliest Steven Spielberg you remember?
Besides this adventure, it's also he isn't shy about putting his heart on his sleeve.
True.
Which I enjoy because some people can be very cold. I think of Christopher Nolan and how his movies can be very they can feel like emotional roller coasters, but a lot of that is it's not necessarily legit emotion being shared on screen. It's a combination of the images and the actions and the emotion that we know we're supposed to have, and then the Hans Zimmer score. So he's good at manipulating it so that we feel like we're on some. But I feel like with Spielberg's movies, the emotion in there is authentic and real. So I think there's kind of a difference from our lizard brain, our lizard brain being stimulated by sights and sound and emotions, just abstract things like love is one of the fifth factors that makes up the universe kind of thing, versus just being oh, that dad's trying to save his son. And also, I mean, other people do it too, but there's something about those camera angles that he does. I don't even know how to replicate it. The angles where it's it's lower to the ground, like you're getting a kid's eye view.
Okay.
and looking up, so everything just seems bigger. I mean, I guess I'm talking Jurassic Park a lot like this.
Okay.
That like dinosaurs seem so big because the camera is almost always kind of at a kid's eye view
Yeah,
when
that's
looking at a
interesting.
dinosaur. So you're always kind of looking up instead of straight ahead.
And you also hate Super 8. Okay.
Yes,
All
and
right.
that's because Super 8 is trying to replicate the Spielberg success, but it's doing it in such like a scientific and cold way. It's like, this is the kids having an emotional scene. This is the adventure. You can just feel with the music, just like as soon as they turn to the camera, you're like, oh, we're in a different emotional state right now. It's just not a smooth thing. And I guess that's what I mean. Like, there are people who try to replicate it, and you get something like Super 8, which I don't think is super successful, and then you get people who are a little bit stronger at it. And I think maybe you get like the first season of Stranger Things.
I was going to ask what you thought of that comparison.
So-
Do you think that's a good comparison? Do you think Stranger Things
Yeah,
holds up well
I
to
think
that?
I think the first season has that kind of like, what's happening? This is
Yeah.
bigger than us.
That makes sense.
What was your second question?
I guess it was when you think you were first aware. Like what's even if you didn't like, I feel like I knew the name Steven Spielberg for a long, long time. And part of that honestly might be Universal Studios, because the E.T. ride is so Spielberg heavy. Like, he's up there on screen and everything. Like, it's a big part of it. But what do you think is the first Spielberg
I don't
you saw?
know. I don't remember seeing anything with like him around E.T. So like, I almost feel the first time I knew there was a Spielberg persona was Tiny Toons.
Oh, okay.
Does that because like he shows up in there?
He
They like
does,
do characters of him and
Right.
stuff, and like I kind of started to understand that Spielberg was a person in this world. Because even I think there's a parody of Sunset Boulevard where Babs comes down the stairs and she says something like, "I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. Spielberg."
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I think I just started.
The name is right on there, isn't it? Isn't it? I mean, you think
Yeah.
he's-
Yes. Steven Spielberg presents Tiny Toon Adventures.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
Getting into cartoons and stuff. I mean, maybe I don't know. Land Before Time. He had a hand in. He was
Okay.
a producer.
yeah,
Like the Don Bluth films. Maybe his name's there, but I don't know when it became a thing until like Jurassic Park. So yeah.
I guess for me, it's kind of a tie, because I have super early memories of E.T., like outside of the ride. I remember that really early. But I also have really, really early memories of the Temple of Doom. And part of that is because of the NES game, Temple
Oh,
of
sure.
Doom. But I remember playing that at my friend Brandon's house in his basement on his NES. But I
Yeah.
also knew what the movie was. You know what I mean? Like, I knew what that was. And that
When were you born?
83.
So I mean, Temple of Doom is 84.
Yeah.
I mean, the ET game was horrible. It helped like usher in
Sure, yeah.
Atari's fall and
Yes.
everything. So I mean, maybe that's just it. Maybe you just born after that when like an NES game is going to be the more popular thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if ET was. I mean, we must have rented it. Maybe my mom bought it. Maybe we owned it because I watched it a few times as a kid.
I feel like it played on TV a lot. Also,
Maybe that was it.
I
then.
think it. I think I saw it on TV in chunks.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about some of
Wait,
your.
you didn't say anything. Do you not like anything about Spielberg?
No, I do. I mean, I think you captured it pretty well. I guess the thing that always comes to my mind is that sense of adventure. It feels like you're more in it. I think gritty is the wrong word, but even just when you look at like Indiana Jones, you really feel his struggle. You know what I mean? Like you just get the sense that everything is hard. Where I feel like a lot of action movies, like James Bond or something,
Right.
of a similar time, most of he's just like essentially a superhero. But
Right.
whether it's in E.T., the bike chase or anything, like you can really feel those kids like trying to push their bikes to the max. You can see Indiana Jones like trying to climb up that rope ladder and stuff. And I think that however he does that, it really makes you feel like you were on that person's side and that you're really like on the edge of your seat trying to like rooting for them, hoping that they're going to be able to, whatever it is, pedal the bike fast enough, climb up the ladder. And I think that's something that is pretty unique to him, to the level that it is. I think he really opens the door and lets you in.
There's a level of like showmanship that he has that at this point is probably second nature. He can kind of just make these big showy set pieces, and I think maybe some other people it's a they maybe they have to work harder.
Yeah.
To make it happen.
Yeah.
I mean, just look at like a Michael Bay film, and you just the first.
Thank you. I'd rather not.
Yeah, the first Transformers film, it was it's directed by Michael Bay, it's produced by Spielberg, and I remember seeing a review just being like, think of like the wonder it would have been if those roles had been reversed, because like the first Transformers tries to go for that Spielberg-y vibe, like the boy in his car, and it has some of those like lens flares and the cameras and stuff, but I think you tell somebody, like you tell Michael Bay, like, oh, it's about a boy in his car, his first car. And Michael Bay's like, oh, hell yeah, my dude. But you tell Spielberg that, and you're probably going to get something a lot more emotive.
Yeah, I agree. Let's look at some of his like directorial movies here. So let's look at 70s. So you got Duel, you got The Sugarland Express, Jaws, Close Encounter of a Third Kind, and 1941. Do you have any feelings on those movies?
Duel is great. Duel's pretty tense. I think Kendra recently watched it and she thought it was...
Two semis, right? Isn't that?
No, yeah, it's just about this like regular Joe who's just on the road, and he's being stalked by a guy in a semi truck like the whole time. Mm-hmm. So it's not like two truckers dueling out. It's just this one guy with this mustache who's just like, oh, I'm just gonna get on home, and then this truck is just chasing him down. I think that was a made-for-TV movie, but it's still pretty intense. And I mean, when he got to Jaws, it's kind of a lot of the same sensibility.
Yeah, that makes sense. Duel is based on a Richard Matheson short story, which is fun. I mean, they're so good.
It was a big deal because he had done like TV films before, but I think this was like a big deal. Yeah, and I think it's how he got to be able to do the Sugarland Express and then Jaws.
He directed the first real episode of Columbo, like of the series proper. There were two pilots directed by other people, but when the series was actually like ordered to in 1971, he directed Murder by the Book, which is really like the true start of that show. The two pilots, Columbo's very different, especially in the first one, and it takes a little time to get in there. But I mean, it's great. It's really good, and it sets a lot of the tone for that series. I was late to Jaws. I mean, I've seen Jaws probably within the last 10 years. I think Jaws is amazing. I mean, I just think it's so good. So good, in fact, that I watched Jaws 2, 3, and 4.
Wow, that might not be that good.
That's how much I liked it. But
Jaws is great. It's intense, but it also just has like a lot of great like character moments. Like those three actors.
Yeah.
Are all so good together. That like you can say like, let's recast Jaws, and nobody's just like, oh, I'd like to. You like really think about it because those characters are so well defined.
Exactly.
You can't just say like, oh, let's just get Who's-y in it. You're like, oh, I guess Chris Cooper for the captain and.
Well, it's so,
Adrian Brody.
It's so interesting to me to learn how much of what you see in Jaws was dictated about how difficult the technology and the props and things were to work with. I mean, that's often cited as why you see so little of the shark, and I feel like a different director might have leaned in another direction, but I feel like he was able to really embrace.
It's a land shark now.
Yeah.
Get it out of the water. Get the robot out of the water. It's a land shark now.
But like he chose to really embrace that and make that really the hallmark of the movie, and that's the thing that sells it. That's the thing that makes it timeless. If we were looking at a big like rubber shark for 90% of that movie, it would be considered a schlocky like B movie instead of a classic, you know.
I mean, the Blair Witch took a huge influence from Jaws, and then everything took a huge influence from the Blair Witch. You know, it just keeps going.
Yeah.
Anytime you talk to like a Hollywood people, like, oh, what's your top 5 favorite films? Like, oh, well, Jaws.
Yeah. Just to recap, Jaws 2 is terrible. Teenagers falling into shark-infested waters over and over again.
Yeah.
Jaws 3 is kind of fun because you got Dennis Quaid and Leah Thompson, and it's just kind of fun. Jaws 4 is ridiculous. But I honestly
guess
feel
you
like...
just described Superman as well, the Superman series.
True. That's
now
true.
People like Superman too.
Yeah.
But that's because they don't know what they're looking at. Close Encounters is a Third Kind.
But again, that's fun.
Close Encounters is I'm like you with Jaws.
Yeah.
In that Close Encounters was a newer thing for me.
Yeah.
Like the past 10 years. I really liked it. It's a bit slow these days.
It is.
But it's still like very interesting.
It is. Have you ever seen there's like I doubt very much that it's a director's cut, but there's a cut of it that you actually see.
Spoilers! Spoilers!
The Richard Dreyfuss character get on the ship at the end, and it's just horrible.
But no, that's the thing.
What do you mean that's the thing?
That's the cut. I mean, he leaves.
No, but you see him, like, interacting with things on the ship.
Oh,
It's this big, like, it doesn't just end with the door. It ends with, like, him being on the ship and, like, looking around and interacting with the...
Being like, what's this? And like, we've invented this.
It's so bad.
water.
I mean, the special effects are unbearable, but it really kills the movie as well. So, yeah, Close Encounters is interesting. It's moody and has kind of a... I don't know. I mean, it's not a scary movie, but there is sort of like a weight to it that feels a little tense, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've never seen Sugarland Express or 1941. 1941 is his, like, bomb. It's the thing that kind of killed his run for a little bit.
Yeah.
Where he was like, he's even said, like, he was feeling cocky at the time. He said that the script itself was very funny, but he just kept stretching everything out, making them last too long.
Well, that's a problem.
And, yeah, he's just admitted, the mistakes that were made and everything. So I've never seen it. It's supposed to be a long film, so I don't want to.
Cool.
It's been one I've been staying
Bad
away.
and long.
You love Goldie Hawn.
I do love Goldie Hawn. That's
Sugarland
Sugarland, though. Yeah.
Yeah, Ben Johnson.
I would watch that, definitely.
All right, so the 3 Indiana Jones movies make up the 80s.
Yep.
I like them all.
Mm-hmm. I've not actually seen The Color Purple.
But of his 80s stuff, I haven't seen Color Purple, Empire of the Sun, or Always.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, but that's the thing. It was like, the 80s were like adventure Spielberg. And then you also had the stuff he was like producing. So you had Gremlins and Poltergeist. And like his name's attached somewhere with Back to the Future, isn't it?
He served as executive producer on the whole trilogy.
Maybe he was just like I've seen like interviews where he's talking about it. And maybe he was talking to... oh gosh, what's the composer?
Alan Silvestri.
Yeah, like him, like telling. I think Silvestri's like, should I go big or small with this sound? And he's just like, go big. And also, he had his hands, like him and Robert Zemeckis were like hand in hand with some stuff. So like he has influence with Who Framed Roger Rabbit. So I mean, you just had Spielberg influencing a whole bunch of stuff in the 80s.
My unpopular opinion is that I feel like E.T. plays long now.
Yeah, that is unpopular and weirdly incorrect.
Isn't it?
I feel like is so good.
No, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it has a little bit of that 80s pacing.
I think it's still great. The whole like story of him and Richard Attenborough. E.T. lost Best Picture to Gandhi that Richard Attenborough did. And Attenborough, like during his speech, was like he should have lost to E.T. because it's a wonderful film and everything. And then Spielberg cast Attenborough in Jurassic Park.
Nice.
When you lose something, you should be nice, or when you win something, you should be nice to the people who lost, so they cast you in Jurassic Park.
I guess so. Apparently, that's
the
which brings us. I mean, you're a classic fan of Indiana Jones, the first 3 anyway.
Yeah, the first 3.
I mean,
I honestly rewatching it, I was like, boy, I do like Temple of Doom.
Yeah,
I think it actually I think the comedy kind of works in a lot of. I mean, people just hate her for screaming all the time.
Yeah, Kate Capshaw is a little hard to take occasionally, but I think the movie overall.
The scene where she's just like running around the camp because all these animals just keep showing up, and Indy and Short Round are not paying any. They're just reading about the map and everything. It's like such a funny scene.
It is funny. It is.
And I mean that minecart scene is like donks.
Well, as a child, I mean, I loved Short Round. I still love Short Round, but as a kid, definitely I did. And that NES game, I'm telling you, I mean, we played that again, Goonies, so much. Yeah, and Goonies, of course. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean. For a lot of people, Raiders was like the big thing. Every time I watch Raiders of the Lost Ark, I'm like, what am I not getting to see this as like the greatest film ever? I don't really know because I feel like I like the second 2 more. But I don't know. Last Crusade, I think is just, I think it's the best one, and it's so good, and it's for no small reason that it has the late Sean Connery playing Harrison Ford's, and it's just the 2 of them are so funny.
They are. They have such great chemistry, and it's funny too because they're not that far apart in age. It's like 12 years.
It's the beard.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
Just the whole like, Dad, what?
I know.
Or no.
Well,
Junior, what?
Listen,
Junior, what? The floor's on fire.
If I'm gonna quote Indiana Jones, like 95% of the time, it is The Last Crusade.
Right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
We named the dog Indiana.
Yeah. It's so good.
So I saw something
so
recently.
Good. When they're looking over the edge. and Indiana Jones sort of appears.
I
in the
mean,
back.
for me,
So
it's
good.
just so much. It's like
Classic.
It's Indiana Jones like duking it out with a tank.
Yeah.
It's just that's
Yeah.
what I mean. It just gets so ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying too, with like really pulling you in, because like, you feel all of that like sand and dirt hitting him in the face, and the way he's just sort of like, you just see the scramble in Indiana Jones, which I think is really one of the things that sells those movies.
I watched the Spielberg documentary that's on HBO, and like the stuff he was filming as a kid, where he was putting planks under the dirt with ditches, so that he was trying to like show his friends being shot at. So when they run, they hit the plank, and the dirt on top of the plank goes up, looking like it's being shot at.
Oh.
And I'm just like, wow! I would have never thought of that when I was younger. The Last Crusade comes out, and then Hook, which you love. So I won't say anything bad about Hook right now. You can just talk all the things you love about Hook, and I won't say anything disparaging.
I haven't seen Hook in a long time, but that was one that I watched and I loved, and I had the action figures, and I couldn't wait for the VHS. You bought me the novelization, which I have to read at some point, but I haven't read it yet.
Well, like anything, I mean, it has its fans.
It's a weird turnaround from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade to Hook. That's a hard turn right there. But that brings us to the 90s.
Maybe that's 91. I mean, maybe if I rewatched it as an adult, I could appreciate more than when I watched it as a kid. I was just like, this is weird.
Were you a Robin Williams fan at this point?
Yeah, well, because of Aladdin, I was constantly disappointed by seeing like a Robin Williams movie. I'm like, oh, this isn't a funny movie. It seemed like every movie I was like, let's do it, it's Robin Williams, and then it's this super serious Patch Adams film.
Yeah.
And like the child in me is just like, but what about the genie?
Yeah. See, I was a big Mork and Mindy fan as a kid, so like I already really liked Robin Williams. So seeing him do that, I felt like seeing him reserved was a fun change, you know. So I did.
Yeah, I don't know when I saw. Well, yeah, it would have been post Aladdin for me.
Poof! What do you need? Poof! What do you need?
1993. It's look at him, Jurassic Park and Schindler's List. Same year.
I mean,
boom, boom, boom.
Come on.
Yeah,
it is funny that Hook is right in the middle of those kind of movies, but yeah. Well, take it away, man. Jurassic Park and Lost World.
He was directing Schindler's List while editing Jurassic Park.
Wow,
I think is how the set goes, because like Jurassic Park came out in June, and Schindler's List came out in December. Which is, pretty far apart when you think about it.
Yeah.
I think he tried to replicate it in 1997 to maybe a little less fanfare. But Jurassic Park changed the game for so many things. I've talked about it nonstop. But I mean, that's it. I mean, it's the thing. It's those camera angles that are always looking up at the dinosaurs, so you realize how big they are. The first movie balances the dinosaurs are scary versus dinosaurs are inspiring. He kind of recycles some ideas. I mean, he puts that hat on Alan Grant. He's trying to harken back to Indiana Jones. But when you think about how like that car scene in the tree has no dinosaurs, that's intense. When you think about how the scene with Timmy on the fence has no dinosaurs,
right?
These scenes that just don't have dinosaurs that are just like, oh my gosh, that is a stressful scene.
Yeah,
I got no bad things to say about those dinosaurs.
I know. I wouldn't dream of asking you to say a bad thing about
that T-Rex. I mean, she's just so pretty. I love her.
Yeah.
And it's just so funny, too, to see, like, how many things they planned on doing. Like, the end of Jurassic Park was supposed to be this, like, brutal battle between, like, Alan Grant, like, riding this, like, tractor thing and, like, driving into them and maybe, like, impaling them to dinosaur bones.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh, wait, we can't end the movie without the T-Rex.
Yeah.
Let's just do this then.
Yeah. It's a pretty epic battle in the Sega game. That's all I'll say.
Sure. It's just, the same horror things. Like the T-Rex is scary before you see the full T-Rex. Like you see its claws on the fence, you see its like neck and head, but until it comes out of that fence completely for that like shot, it's still just like, oh my gosh, is that a T-Rex? Don't tell me it's a T-Rex. And the raptors, which were like, nobody knew what raptors were.
Yeah.
When Jurassic Park came out, and then all of a sudden it's like everybody knew what raptors were. Everybody was calling a Deinonychus a raptor.
They're the rock stars.
Yeah, I mean that was as the market, everything. I mean, they must have known it was going to make so much money because, like, the marketing, the merch that was out there, it's crazy. And then also, he did Schindler's List, which is gosh, is it Seinfeld that were like Jerry and his girlfriend were making out during this?
Yeah.
And everybody's so mad at him.
Yeah.
Like, how could you? Because it had that like, it's a depressing film. I watched it in college, and it's just like, you just watch it and it's like, oh my gosh, can we be done? It's just brutal. It's just an emotional, like, you're an emotional wreck when it's over. Because it's using Liam Neeson to tell this like important emotional story, or witnessing all this stuff that happens, but then he's also just doing this is how they did that, the almost kind of documentary. It's horrible. It's a horrible time.
Yeah.
So I think he tried to replicate that 1993 year, because then it's 1997 where he does The Lost World and Amistad.
Right.
And I think people feel like there's a lot of diminishing returns with both of those. I liked Amistad. I was surprised that I liked it. Matthew McConaughey is in it, like young. Anthony Hopkins and Morgan Freeman.
Yeah.
And it's just the story of a slave ship where they're trying to figure out what happens to the slaves on there now that it's been stopped, whether or not they are still property or if they're people who should be able to go home. The Lost World, I mean, when I talk about The Lost World, I imagine you get the same way I get when you're talking Hook.
No, I just bask in your love for it. That's all.
Oh my God. Yeah, well, my love for The Lost World is great.
Yeah, I know it is.
98 was Saving Private Ryan. I can't imagine you've seen this movie. It's a
meat
grind.
I know.
Minutes.
I know. I've always wanted to see it, and I just feel like the violence I would never get over it.
Violence isn't like John Wick is violent. This thing is just, I mean, as soon as those doors drop, it's just, it's horrible. You feel like, I think a lot of reasons why people kept coming back to this movie or like to see it again is just because like that first, however long the storming of Normandy Beach is like, it's a technical marvel, but it's also just like, I don't know. I don't know if you've ever seen anything like that before. Yeah. It's just because after that scene, it does become more of a traditional war movie with like the Spielberg emotional sensibilities, but it's hard to watch that opening now. I mean, the ocean just gets red with blood so fast. It's important, seeing what that looked like.
Yeah. And
that scene, like I played a game on the PS2 called Medal of Honor Frontline, and it has a storming beach scene, and it was almost, a lot of it was shot for shot trying to do this movie. Okay. I think it just influenced how people see these things.
Yeah.
And then, Spielberg went on to produce Band of Brothers,
right,
and the Pacific, and a lot of that mentality kind of went that way. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you could handle it. It's because it is a long. This says 23 minutes. Just the pure carnage. It's horrible.
That's,
just what you can do to each other.
That kind of thing I just cannot get out of my mind. It just tortures me.
Yeah, it's brutal. That's how he ended the 90s.
Yeah.
So he had a pretty good year in the 90s. Like money, like even if you don't care for Lost World, it made a lot of money.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And then, Saving Private Ryan was the highest grossing movie in America that year. Schindler's List, Oscar, is all that stuff. 2001, we start getting into kind of a weird Spielberg phase.
Mm-hmm.
He gets very sci-fi, but then he also gets very real world and adult.
Yes. We begin the run of movies where Spielberg directs Tom Hanks with a funny accent, right?
Tom Hanks, well, yeah, after 3 movies, because the first one is AI, Artificial Intelligence, which is a weird film that's like a mix of Stanley Kubrick and then Spielberg's like emotion, which I don't think Kubrick has ever experienced an emotion in his life.
That's why we're not doing a Kubrick spotlight.
I think the only emotion he's ever experienced was fear, and it was causing of. So, yeah, AI. Have you seen AI?
No, I haven't actually.
I don't know if you could handle this now that you're a dad.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
They're at the beginning, the beginning stuff. I mean, the whole story is just this robot boy who's representing Pinocchio, which Spielberg loves.
My son does not look unlike a young Haley Joel Osment either.
Yeah, I see. Oh, no, you know what? Just skip it. You don't need to see AI.
All right.
It's just a sad movie with not a lot of. The light in it is coming from the AI character from Haley Joel Osment. It's, just thinking about it's making me sad. Holy crap. But Minority Report.
Now, we've talked about Minority Report excessively on the podcast. We even did a poll to see if it was underrated or not. But no, I remember seeing this one in theaters. I thought it was great then. I think it's great now. I think it's just a really clever, compelling mystery. I think it's great.
It has that, like, the adult sensibility he's going for in a lot of ways, but still has, like, some pretty ridiculous, like, action moments.
Yeah.
That, like, you know, like the scene where they're first trying to arrest Tom Cruise and, like, don't run, and, like, they always run. And then, like, it ends. I remember a lot of people joke, like, thinking it's hilarious how he escapes from them by getting into a car factory and just getting out of a car that was made around him.
Yeah.
So
I know you've read a bunch of Philip K. Dick. Have you happened to read the story
I haven't read
that's
Minority
based on?
Report,
Okay.
no. But the movie's great. We rewatched it fairly recently because my wife hadn't seen it.
Yeah.
That's when we all watched it again, and it was still, like, I couldn't remember how it ended.
Yeah, there was a lot of beats in there that I was kind of still surprised at.
Yeah, that was the first Tom Cruise and Spielberg one, which seems kind of crazy because they were huge names in the 80s and 90s. Both of them, like, rocked the 80s and 90s. And then the new millennium came around, like, let's try a few movies together, huh?
Well, in a similar way, I was shocked when Ant-Man and the Wasp came out, and it was the first time Michael Douglas and Michelle Pfeiffer were ever in anything together. I mean, it just seems like, of course, they, like, ran into each other at the water cooler at Universal Studios and were in movies together, but no.
Were huge names doing, like, similar movies, but never crossed paths.
Together.
Ever.
It's very bizarre.
Catch Me If You Can, which is great.
I loved Catch Me If You Can, and that was fun because I remember as a kid I listened to Frank Abagnale on the radio, like, telling that story. So I'd heard a lot of that story before, and as I was watching the movie, I was like, this is that radio show, you know, that I heard him being interviewed forever ago. But this is the start of Tom Hanks has an accent with Steven Spielberg.
It's interesting because, like, it's not the same type of movie that, like, people think of, like, as fun, action-packed Spielberg, but this is, like, a very fun and light film that's, like, I mean, it's cool. It's a cool film, which I think is a strong suit. So I haven't seen The Terminal. That's with Tom Hanks with an accent where he's stuck in the terminal because his country has been dissolved. So he no longer has a visa.
Now I have seen The Terminal, and I got to say, until we were going to do this and you said, I guess I have to watch The Terminal, I did not know that this was a Spielberg movie because to me it's just kind of like a goofy rom-com with Catherine Zeta-Jones and Tom Hanks. It's fine. Mm-hmm. It's fine. Right. I mean, I just, but Catch Me If You Can is one of my favorites. I love Catch Me If You Can. But this one was just kind of like, okay, whatever.
War of the Worlds and Munich, both the same year. So I guess he does an adventure. He does the one for them, one for me thing, but, like, the same year. War of the Worlds was huge.
Yeah, I remember that.
I saw that one in theaters, and it was like, I knew what I was going to see. I was like, I like Spielberg. It's got Tom Cruise. It's going to be this big side, but, like, it was like the action alien movie you get from Spielberg after he's done Saving Private Ryan. Because, like, that first reveal where you get the tripod coming out of the ground and it's just, like, vaporizing people is brutal.
Yeah.
The movie is just, like, this tense. It's not fun in the same way Jurassic Park and Indiana Jones are fun.
Yeah.
But it's still...
It doesn't have a lot of lightness to it.
No, but, like, you think about, like, the scenes, like, they're all just so intense. Like, they're them leaving the city with those things out, with the whole ferry boat scene where everybody's trying to get on the ferry boat. Like, when I'm ever in a crowd, I'm just like, this is too much, man. Then the Tim Robbins stuff is like,
I know.
Shut up, Tim Robbins.
I know. They have the only van that works, and people are, like, trying to rip the windshield off. I mean,
my gosh,
that movie, I haven't seen it in a long time, but I got to imagine that one still holds up pretty well.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Yeah, I know people who get very sick of the actress. She was a child actor. Dakota Fanning, because she screams a lot.
She's very flat. Her performance in that is very, like, we have to get out of here. Let's go. Like, it is a weird choice. I don't particularly like it, but I think it makes sense.
He's like a bad dad, and she's kind of like a spoiled, everything needs to fit in the box kind of thing. It all makes sense, but that doesn't always mean you want to hear it at full volume.
Yeah.
So the problem with War of the Worlds that keeps it, for me, I mean, it's just he softens up over the years. And so when you get to the end, you're a little pissed by the happy ending we're tagged with.
Yeah.
And
yeah, it sort of feels like, was this Spielberg or Chris Columbus? Because I can't tell at this point.
Yeah.
I know what you
and
mean.
like you get it. You're like, all right, you're dad. You wouldn't go on the alien ship at the end of that, but at the same, did you ever see Munich?
No, I didn't.
I watched Munich. Maybe like in 2007. I had rented it. There's some intense scenes in there, like scenes where they're planning to assassinate somebody, but then somebody else is there and they have to stop it. These discussions about homelands and everything. That's a depressing movie. I mean, that's the movie you're getting from that like 90s Spielberg that's starting to show up. But there's still those scenes. It's like tension. It comes from the whole Alfred Hitchcock mentality, where like we know there's a bomb, and that's what's making it tense for us.
Exactly.
And it has a lot of stuff to say, but it also has some pretty intense moments. But it's also brutal, and it's hard to watch the opening scenes that kind of continue through the movie because it's all about the Olympics, where the Olympians had been murdered. And there's some brutal scenes in there with knives that I wish I hadn't seen. Ooh. All right, why don't you defend Crystal Skull? Came out in 2008.
Yes, we closed the aughts with Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. You know, this is a movie that I've gone back and forward on, and I really feel like at the end of the day, a lot of this movie could be fixed with editing. You know, I think that the ending, where you actually see the things that you see, the aliens, is just a step too far. You know, I just think it... And a lot of like the Lucasy stuff with like the goofy CGI animals peppered throughout it. I think there's a lot of this movie when you watch it again, because we watched it, I don't know, we rewatched Indiana Jones not too long ago, and we watched Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and it was the first time I've seen it in a really long time. And I feel like now, if I'm going to watch the Indiana Jones movies, I'm going to watch Crystal Skull. You know, like I don't think it's so bad that you need to excise it from the process. I just feel like there's a lot of stuff that's really, like, truly good, and several things that are pretty unfortunate. How do you feel?
Well, not that way.
Okay.
I watched it. I didn't see it in theaters. I waited, and I was house sitting for a friend that was babysitting their cat. So I was like, I'll watch. They have this on DVD. I'll watch this. And I was just kind of like, boy, this is not doing it for me. But you know what?
You watched it alone while you were babysitting?
It was a cat.
I watched it with a group at the drive-in. You know, I think that's a big difference.
I just think this movie is like when people are like, no, we don't want the Ghostbusters recast. We want Ghostbusters with the original. I'm like, all right, you want 80-year-old Bill Murray as your Ghostbuster? You want, just the idea that like you want all the same things. You can't watch Terminator unless it has Schwarzenegger, even though he's, basically dripping off of a exoskeleton, skeletons. It's just kind of like, okay, you want more Indiana Jones? Well, by 2008, do you really want 60-year-old Indiana Jones?
And by 2021, do you really want 80-year-old Indiana Jones?
It just kind of shows that like fans need to. I don't know. In an interview, Spielberg said, "I was making this for you," and I was like, "Don't you put this evil on me, Spielberg." Honestly, you blame this on me.
I think the problems with that movie are more George Lucas than Steven Spielberg, but
that's true because he wrote it. Yeah,
I think you see some nods to the fact that they were realizing that it was kind of. I think they had in their mind a torch passing of sorts. I think that it was kind of meant to be that Harrison Ford was more in the Sean Connery role with Hollywood superstar Shia LaBeouf kind of taking the mantle. You see that with the hat in the end and all that, even though Indy does take it. I think that was a nod to that. And maybe had it been better received, we might have seen some sort of Shia LaBeouf continuation of the series, which I'm glad we didn't. But I do sort of think that was the thinking at the time.
I guess I just think that without that, you just say Indiana Jones and you just have a great trilogy. And now you have this and you have this situation where you have to make a decision as a viewer.
True.
And I don't like having to do that anymore. It's the same thing with the Bourne trilogy.
Well, yes, Jason Bourne is a terrible movie. But I feel like with Indiana Jones, too, I mean, you already had like a sanctioned continuation with the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, even including an old Harrison Ford in an episode, too. So it's like there already was sort of apocryphal Indiana Jones out there. So, if you want to lump Crystal Skull with the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, then God bless you, I think that's fine. You want to talk about a movie that I hate? Let's talk about the teens here and get into the adventures of Tintin.
Yeah, he comes into the 2010. different. So Adventures of Tintin, that's the all CGI one that was supposed to, like, Peter Jackson produced it and he directed it, and then they were supposed to switch roles for the sequel.
Oh.
And that never happened. I don't think it made enough money.
Did you see it?
Yeah, but I didn't see it in theaters. I saw it on DVD or something. Yeah,
I saw it.
You saw it in theaters.
I did. Yeah, and I mean, I was looking forward to it. It wasn't like I was dragged reluctantly. I was like, this will be fun. You know, I mean, I like animated stuff, and I like Steven Spielberg, and I liked, you know, it's kind of a retro vibe to it. But I truly hated that movie. I've only seen it the one time in theaters. Maybe I'd feel differently now, but there was nothing for me in that.
I don't know if what was the problem with it. I mean, it's slow. It's ridiculously slow.
It is.
Parts.
Yeah.
And I think maybe he just. I mean, it's 3D computer animated. If you can't get in there,
yeah,
maybe that's the thing. And then you're like, so instead of like telling actors and you're controlling like every scene, now you're relying on animators. But yeah, it seemed very slow. There's that one scene that people tend to point at, like the big one tracking shot as they're all going down the hill and there's like a dam breaking and there's a car chase and everything. But the thing is, like, technically that's like very impressive and it's like this big moment of fun, but it's not surrounded by other fun stuff.
No.
And like you could really just use that as like a tech piece to like show people like it's a demo reel at that point. And then he did Warhorse, which I only just saw recently, but I thought was great. And I can't find anyone who's seen Warhorse.
No, I think it's just you. I think it's
crazy. It made money.
Did it?
Anyways, this is where Spielberg has said like he saw the play and it made him cry. And, you know, people always like, oh, you put too much of your heart on your sleeve. He's like, I know what I'm doing. You think I'm like, and also Warhorse made me cry. I didn't have to make Warhorse sad. Watching the play made me sad. And then but like, the thing is.
I mean, Tintin made me cry, but for different reasons, so.
The end of Warhorse, the emotional, like, trek at the end is like something I feel like Spielberg can do. And like if I start describing to you, it's just this like and then like the horse gets caught in wires and they bring him back.
No.
And so his foot's not great, so they're gonna have to put him down. Meanwhile, the boy who has raised him and loves him is just a couple of blocks down.
No.
And he's blind from some gas.
That's too
and
much.
so he doesn't know his horse is there. Meanwhile, the vet is planning to put the horse down.
Oh my
and you're
gosh.
like, the boy's just there.
It's right there.
And so then, like, the kid whistles, because that's how the horse answers, and the horse looks up, and everybody's like, huh, well, put the horse back down, we're going to shoot it, and then he whistles again, and you're just like, stop! And it's lightly snowing, and there's, like, warm lights coming from the insides of the house, and it's all just, like, incredibly well done, even though it's not an action scene.
Have we just spoiled Warhorse?
No, I didn't say whether or not. I didn't say what happens to the horse. I'm sorry I spoiled the 9-year-old Warhorse film that no one has watched.
I like to think that Warhorse and Seabiscuit got married and just retired on a nice farm with lots of apples.
It's a PG-13 war film, so there are scenes in like World War I
I can dig it.
That's handled differently, but it's still like, oh man, World War I sucked.
It really did, yeah.
But yeah, I was just kind of surprised because it had. I don't know. It's just such like a classic great. I wish more people would talk about Warhorse with me. Anyway, I think Warhorse is worth a revisit if you hadn't seen it. And Lincoln, Nick loves Lincoln. He thought it should have won the Oscar in 2012.
I do, and I do think that, yeah. Daniel Day-Lewis is amazing in it. I just think it's a really, really well done movie, start to not finish. I was gonna say start to finish. It's not a great movie, start to finish. That end is the worst, schmaltziest thing I've ever seen in my life. It suddenly becomes a movie that was made for like A&E in 1999, and I don't know what he was thinking. We all know Lincoln dies, Steven Spielberg. We all know Lincoln dies. That's the one thing people do know. Lincoln dies. You don't need to. There's a perfect ending scene, and then we go to that flickering candle and like the Gettysburg Address. I don't even remember, but it's terrible. Everything up until that point, though, golden.
What won that year? Oh, it was Argo. Yeah, we're all talking about Argo today.
Argo.
I probably would have given it to Life of Pi, but that's neither here nor there. That's back in 2012.
Argo was such a snooze fest, which surprises me because I feel like a lot of Affleck's directorial stuff is great. I mean, The Town is amazing, but Argo was slow. It was Tintin slow.
Lincoln is good. Bridge of Spies is a nice story, but it doesn't necessarily translate into a movie you want to watch 2.5 hours of.
No, and that's a situation where I feel like whoever was marketing the movie recognized the problem better than the people making the movie, because it's marketed much more as like a courtroom drama kind of movie, and it is very much not a courtroom drama. Bridge
of Spies and The Post, it's like, I know Spielberg is older, and I know he wants to tell these mature stories and stuff, but I see these things, I'm like, what? I get it. I get that The Post is an important story, but it's also, you just sit there and like, wow, I just watched a textbook.
Yeah. Although I would take The Post over Bridge of Spies any day of the week.
And The Post is the same thing, where like, I liked at the end where Meryl Streep's like, the newspaper's important, and people, I'm like, we get it, okay? It's 2017 when this movie comes out. We get what you're trying to say. We don't need that.
Wow. That is a perfect example of how slow time has gone lately. The fact that The Post was only 2017 is shocking to me.
I haven't seen the BFG. That was supposed to be a big deal because it was a Disney movie, and it was the first, Spielberg and Disney together.
Right.
But I don't understand what Spielberg is loving with Mark Rylance. I mean, it's like, okay, he's good.
That's true.
I did see Ready Player One in theaters. You didn't like Ready Player One.
I saw it with you, no. And I mean, I'd never read the book. I didn't really have much attachment to the story. But no, that one didn't really cut it for me either. But I think a lot of that, too, was casting. I don't remember that actor's name who plays the lead role in that. But
Ty something. He plays Cyclops.
I don't know how he keeps getting work,
Apocalypse,
honestly. I really don't.
Dark Phoenix. He was the young Cyclops in the movies. Well, I liked Ready Player One, because I liked the book. But the movie makes a lot of changes so that it's not really... A lot of the stuff I liked in the book don't translate.
I fully don't understand why we have The Shining in the middle of that movie.
Yeah, I've actually warmed up to that scene now because I've watched it with other people, and they have reacted to it, like, well.
Huh.
Like, I showed it to family, and they were like, oh, no, they're in The Shining. And I'm like, okay. I don't get it, but okay. I think of that opening race where the kids in the DeLorean. Yeah. And that's the kind of like controlled chaos that probably, they were trying to do with something like Tintin with that chase scene. But it's wacky racers and Mario Kart on crack and everything.
Wait, was Dick Dastardly in there? Because I would have been on board for that.
He could have been.
I think
But you have all these cars. You have the bicycle from Akira and everything, and they're like smashing up. People are blasting into coins. You have wrecking balls just there. The T-Rex shows up. King Kong shows up.
Yeah. And
it's the kind of thing that you give it to another director and it's going to give you a headache. But Spielberg just keeps it all just so focused that you never feel like he's not in control of that chaos.
Picture, if you will, a Michael Bay Ready Player One.
Oh my gosh,
it would be twice as long and 90%
there's a lot I
grinding
like in Ready Player One. I think it's the closest we've gotten to 80s adventure Spielberg in a long time.
Oh well, yeah, I agree
with that one. I think it's I think the the end battle maybe has some issues, but I think it's still kind of I watched it with my sisters, and they're hard to get to like anything. Lots of times, my sisters, something is boring until proven fun.
Mm-hmm.
But they liked, when they started throwing Chucky around, they were laughing hysterically. All the cameos that I think maybe annoyed you, they were digging.
I don't think I was annoyed by the cameos. I just think the tone, just overall, I don't know. It was never as fun or as cohesive as I wanted it to be.
I think it's pretty fun, but I've seen mixed stuff. I'm not surprised. There's plenty of people who don't like it. I think some people just don't like the story in general too.
Yeah, well, that could be.
I really like the scene at the end with, surprisingly, Mark
Rylance.
Yeah, but there's something about that attic that just feels so warm and homey.
Okay.
Anyways, West Side Story was supposed to come out this year.
That's where we'd be right now. Yeah, no West
The only
Side
movie
Story.
that came out this year was New Mutants and Tenet, and that's just because Christopher Nolan thought he could cure coronavirus by putting a movie into theaters.
Yeah, that's true. I was puzzled when they said Spielberg was going to direct West Side Story. All right.
I'm bummed because it's not like he's a young rooster. What do you say?
You could say he's not. I mean, he's not a young rooster.
He's not a young buck anymore. You know, he's only got so many indies, and so he announced West Side Story and then Indiana Jones 5. And it's just kind of like...
But he's not directing Indiana Jones 5.
No,
so.
But at one point it seemed like that was going to happen.
Well, yeah,
so it's like, these could be your last 2 movies ever, Spielberg, and you want to make a 5th bad Indiana Jones and then remake West Side Story?
I know.
I'm bummed because he was attached to Robopocalypse.
I remember
and
that.
I thought that was right in his wheelhouse.
Yeah.
It would have been so cool. And then it went to Michael Bay. So I am bummed that West Side Story is, there. I keep hoping. Every now, I guess I saw this article that was saying, like, Spielberg didn't get bad. It's that his fans refused to grow up with him. And that, like, he was doing these fun adventure films that he wanted to do in his youth, and then he got older and he wanted to cover more serious topics like Munich and Lincoln and Saving Private Ryan, and maybe, like, his fans that love Indiana Jones and Jaws didn't want to follow him down that path. And so, like, I try to say, like, that kind of, like, yes, you're right. It is important to make important films and have Spielberg make these important films. But I'm also like, just make another movie with dinosaurs or saber-toothed tigers. Is there some kind of boat film you could make? Is there... I mean, I guess that's Jaws. But, yeah, it's always just like, okay, you want to make this movie about, racism in the 1800s or some adventure set in, like, the outback of Australia with some kind of, like, Nazi gold. That's, it's just... And then, like, there's a flood. There's a flood in the desert of Australia.
Yeah.
Look out, Spielberg! Let's run on barrels!
Sounds fun.
I mean, are you excited for West Side Story?
No.
I mean, I guess it would be nice if you can watch West Side Story without all, like, the racism that's involved in the original movie.
Sure, yeah.
But also it seems a weird choice for Spielberg, because it's like, well, shouldn't somebody who... Isn't Spielberg the West Side Story?
I mean, yeah, I agree with you, and I don't get it at all, honestly. I mean, I suppose I probably will see it, but no, I don't really understand it.
It's weird, just like, why... We have Spielberg remaking a movie. That's the thing.
Yeah.
That's what's weird to me.
It is very strange.
I don't know. As long as Mark Rylance isn't in it.
Spielberg is your top? Would you say he's your favorite director?
I mean, he's the director I maybe look up the most to. There are directors that I like and I get excited for. Like, I've teased Christopher Nolan, but I've seen, all the Christopher Nolan films and get excited when there's a new one out. There's plenty of directors that I like, both big and small. But there is just this thing about Spielberg. I mean, to be that successful with that many movies. Like, you can list all those movies. And I think it was Kevin Smith on his podcast where they were ranking his movies. And Kevin Smith's like, these are, this is a list of movies I've seen. Yeah. That's what the idea that, like, you can just list Spielberg movies and, like, yeah, all right, I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen that. Of course I've seen that.
Right.
His worst films, the ones you don't want to talk to about, still made like $300 million at the box office.
Right. Yeah.
I guess that's the thing. Like, plenty, the art students want to be Scorsese, but I'd probably prefer to be Spielberg myself.
Yeah.
Make these big, fun adventure movies at times that people want to see, and then just bring that showmanship over. And it's like, okay, you liked what I did with Indiana Jones and Jaws? Well, now I'm applying all that craft to Normandy. And it's like, oh, jeez. Oh, no. This is what Jaws would be like if he was the Nazis.
Yes. Well, we have many of these right in our very own collection here at the David A. Howe Public Library, so you can request or check out any of these, or any that we don't have, we can certainly get in your greedy little hands. So let us know, and we will hook you up.
I was buying DVDs. Had to make sure that we had the Indiana Jones films and all the Jurassic Park films at time. I think, didn't we get somebody donated Jaws 2 to the library?
I think there was something like that. Yeah,
and it was one of those like, oh, thanks, but no thanks, pal. I mean, we added it, and it checked out.
Oh, sure,
which really made me mad.
It made you angry.
It makes me mad when
people
are checking out Jaws 2 and ignoring, like, the new low-budget film. Like, Jaws 2 is your movie pick tonight?
Jaws 2 is so bad. It's so bad. It's so much worse than you think it is.
Anyway. Did you have a favorite one? Did you say a favorite? Is it Hook?
Well, no, it's definitely not Hook. I mean, that's so hard to pick.
Is it the Indiana Jones movies?
I mean, I guess probably I would have to say that, but I'm really drawn to Jaws as well. I feel like Jaws as an experience is just so good, and Indiana Jones just feels like a different type of thing. So it's really it's hard to say because they're difficult to compare. They're just so unique. There's so many of them that stand on their own. And I mean, I love Lincoln. I love Catch Me If You Can. There's many in here that
honestly,
would be on my top list of movies.
I'm like, I need to watch War of the Worlds again right now.
Yeah,
I need to go put that on.
Yeah, do it. I mean, is it Jurassic Park for you, favorite wise?
Yes, but that seems unfair.
It does.
Because,
Yeah, it's never stopped you,
at the
though.
same time, it is fair because if Jurassic Park had been done by someone else, there are dinosaurs. You know, I don't say King Kong. I mean, I love King Kong.
Yeah.
The point is, you can make a bad dinosaur movie. I'm not watching We're Back on a regular basis.
What about Theodore Rex with Whoopi?
No, I'm not watching that. I'm not,
Okay.
you know, but I think if it had been a bad, you know, I don't watch Jurassic Park 3 on the regular.
Right.
But I think it's just Jurassic Park because I think it's almost the perfect showy, adventure-y Spielberg with some, like, the sci-fi things that he's going to start doing more so with Minority Report and AI and everything. And, you know, then The Lost World gets darker. I don't know. If you took Jurassic Park out of the equation, it's hard. Part of me would probably say Last Crusade.
No,
but
I really thought
like
you'd go
you-
E.T. I thought you'd go E.T.
Well, I was going to... Yeah, but I think, like you, Jaws is also just, like, you look at it
So
like, well, I
good.
don't know. There's nothing bad about Jaws,
I know,
is there?
it's true. There's really not.
So,
That's
but,
some
I
bad
mean,
hat, Harry.
It's one of those things. You know, War of the Worlds and Minority Report is so good, and I'm a
good,
sucker
yeah.
for War Horse, apparently. I'm the only one. You know, I should hang it. If I ever meet Spielberg, I'd be like, I loved War Horse. And he'd be like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh.
Oh, no one's ever said that to me before.
You're the
that's great.
person that rented that digital version of War Horse a few years ago. That was me. I
Nice
was
to
home
get the
alone.
recognition. That's nice.
Yeah.
All right, well, thanks for tuning in for our extended Spielberg spotlight here. Join us next week. It's Dino November, baby.
Don't run. Was that it?
Yeah.